Absolutely not. I started at the very beginning just like everybody else does, and I think the thing that's made me different in the bicycle touring world is that I started bicycle touring at a very young age, and I've stuck with it for years and years and years. For me, it all started in 2001 with what I call a defining moment in my life. I had just graduated from high school and been accepted into a 4-year university, and I was going to major in film and television studies, which was something that I was really looking forward to. But at the age of 17, I was also a little bit nervous about just the future in general. I had kind of seen what so many of my friends and family members had done. Go off to college, graduate, get a job, get married, buy a house, have kids, get a dog, and then only after they've done all of that and retired, then they're able to go off and do something, travel the world or whatever. And sometimes they're too old, or sickly to do those things. And so seeing that with so many different people, it kind of frightened me a little bit. And I didn't want to have to wait until I was 50 or 60 years old in order to travel the world. So I decided that I wanted to do some of that, at least, as soon as I possibly could. And that's when I decided that before I was going to go off to college, I wanted to do something big, challenging, and memorable. I didn't know what that thing was right away or at first, but I knew that before I started college, I was going to do something big. And that's when one of my friends who was on my soccer team at the time suggested that I run across the length of California, kind of like Forrest Gump did in the movie Forrest Gump that was released in, I think, 1994. I was a huge Forrest Gump fan in school when I was in high school, and all of my friends knew that. So that's kind of where that idea came from. It was a joke that my friend was just suggesting that I run from Oregon to Mexico down the California coastline. And for him it was a joke, but I actually started thinking about it and thinking, maybe I could do something like that. I mean, that would certainly be big, challenging, and memorable. So I started to think about running from Oregon to Mexico. But after I conducted a 3-day test run near my home, I decided that running was probably not the best way to do that big, challenging, and memorable thing that I wanted to do. I was so sore. I ran for 3 days. I ran a marathon every single day for 3 days in a row. And by the end of the third day, I couldn't walk. My legs were just dead. So that's what made me realize that maybe running from Oregon to Mexico over a short 2-month summer holiday was probably not going to be the best option. But luckily, my Uncle Tom had just returned from a 2-month-long bicycle tour in Ireland. And he was able to sit down and tell me that that instead of running, maybe I should ride my bike. And this was really an aha moment for me. My uncle was the only person I knew at the time that had ever done a bicycle tour. And so he was able to tell me that while running, I'd have to have a car or something to follow along me, alongside me to carry my water and food and all that kind of stuff. That on a bicycle I could travel by myself and carry everything that I'd need with me for the trip on my bicycle, saving me a large amount of money and also preventing someone else from going along. There wasn't this need for somebody else to go along with me on the trip. So I took my uncle's idea and ran with it. And before I started my first year of college, I mounted my father's dusty old mountain bike, which had been sitting in the garage unused for years. I didn't have a bike of my own. And I slowly pedaled my way more than 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers or so, from Oregon to Mexico down the California coastline. I didn't know a thing about bike touring at the time. I made a ton of mistakes along the way, but I muscled my way through it, which is something I don't think everybody could do. I think at being 17 years old and fairly naive, I was able to just kind of painfully push my way through some of these moments. And 30 days after I left, I reached the Mexican border, and to make a long story short, the trip totally changed my life. I thought that when I reached the Mexican border that this would be the end of my bicycle touring experience, that I would never go bicycle touring again. I'd go off to college, get a job, and do what I thought I was going to do at that time. But reaching Mexico was really just the beginning for me. I became hooked on bicycle touring. I'd sit in my college classes and be thinking about all these incredible experiences, the people I met, the scenery I had seen on that first bicycle tour, and I knew that I wanted to do more of it. So for the following 4 summers, all through college, instead of like doing what my classmates did, which was like get internships and low-paying jobs, I would save up my money during the school year. I worked 2 jobs during university, and then I would go off during the summers and ride my bike through some foreign place. During college, I rode my bike across the United States 6 times, different routes across the United States. And after I graduated from college, I just kept going. I went further and further away from home, started going to foreign countries and traveling by bike all around the world. And so that first bike tour down the California coastline was really the defining moment for me, because it taught me a lot about myself and the world in which we live. And it taught me a lot, really, about the fundamental basics of bicycle touring. It taught me that riding an old bicycle that's been sitting in the garage for years is not a good idea. It taught me how to carry all the belongings that you need for a bike tour on your bicycle. It taught me that if you carry too much stuff, that cycling becomes difficult. And so I learned a lot of the essential bicycle touring basics during that first bike tour, or even the first couple bike tours. More importantly, though, my bicycle touring experiences during my college years taught me that the world isn't nearly as scary as everyone makes it out to be. I was incredibly shy during high school and college, but bicycle touring really opened up the world to me and taught me, made me realize that I didn't have to be afraid of other people. I think I've learned a lot about setting goals from bicycle touring. I've done some amazing things and seen others do amazing things through their bicycle tours. And I think more importantly, I've realized that with bicycle touring, it doesn't really matter where you're from, how old you are, how much money you have. That if you set a goal for yourself and you push, you aim for that goal, you are capable of succeeding. So those are some of the things that I learned from that first bicycle tour. And I should also mention that during the first bike tours that I was doing, I also met a number of other people who were just getting started with bicycle touring, and they were, like myself, kind of learning these things as they went along. I'd land in campgrounds each night and mingle with fellow bike tourists, and we'd sit around the campfire for hours each night and talking about all the problems that we were having, talk about which gear was best for long-distance bicycle touring. We'd talk about how we were planning different routes and stuff. And so it really made me see that other people were running into the same problems and experiencing the same things that I was while I was out there on the road.